think our country is moving back towards where it was previously. Sometime in 1990s, because Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was never having so many abductions, but his regime is known for killing so many Kenyans arbitrarily, including J.M. Kariuki and the rest. But when you go to the Moi government, there was a lot of capture and torture, where people are always captured, the likes of Dr. John Kaminwa, the likes of Muite, Charles Rubia, and a whole lot of them. The only difference between what happened then and what is happening now is in the Moi regime, when somebody was abducted or captured by the state illegally, they were normally taken to the Nyayo torture chambers. So you definitely know that so-and-so was abducted by the government and he has been taken to a particular place and is being tortured there. So you will definitely be knowing where they are. And as such, there were not so many applications for something we call habeas corpus, that the body be produced. My name is Gad Aguko. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, practicing as such, but I'm also a lover of democracy and human rights. And I'm glad to be here this morning.
Thank you so much, Wakili, and karibu sana.
Asante.
We begin with what you have mentioned about human rights, and today we want to talk about abductions and missing persons, and where does the law come in. And I want to begin, Wakili, by reading some statistics. The Kenya Human Rights Commission says that 82 abductions were carried out between June and December 2024. And recently, when we commemorated the June 2024 Finance Bill protest, 6 people were abducted, and among them is one gentleman who is also an activist called Davis Lichuma, and he was dumped somewhere and he's now in hospital. With that background information, Wakili,
yes,
please tell us what is happening in our country. Are these things that have happened before, or is this the first time that we're experiencing this, and what is really going on in terms of our democracy?
Terry and our listeners, just to begin with, I think our country is moving back towards where it was previously. Sometime in 1990s, because Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was never having so many abductions, but his regime is known for killing so many Kenyans arbitrarily, including J.M. Kariuki and the rest. But when you go to the Moi government, there was a lot of capture and torture, where people are always captured, the likes of Dr. John Kaminwa, the likes of Muite, Charles Rubia, and a whole lot of them. The only difference between what happened then and what is happening now is in the Moi regime, when somebody was abducted or captured by the state illegally, they were normally taken to the Nyayo torture chambers. So you definitely know that so-and-so was abducted by the government and he has been taken to a particular place and is being tortured there. So you will definitely be knowing where they are. And as such, there were not so many applications for something we call habeas corpus, that the body be produced, because there is always an answer of where the person is. They were abducted illegally, but you will know where they are. So moving forward, when people began agitating for the current constitution, they wanted to seal that loophole where the government cannot just come and abduct you, take you somewhere, and torture you and say that is now state power in use. They wanted to, the new constitution wanted to seal that loophole of abuse of state powers. So what did it do? It gave every person a right to freedom. You have to be free. You need not to be captured, and even your security, so that nobody can just capture you and take you somewhere. And if at all you are being arrested by the police, you need to be produced within 24 hours and be taken to court if at all you are supposed to be charged. So now we have a rogue kind of institution which is coming back, where they feel that their aim, which is actually illegal, that is to torture people, cannot be achieved by arresting people the way President Moi used to do in his very bad era. So what do? They capture you using the Subarus. I think I saw Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka also talking about it, They capture you using the Subarus, which are tinted and numberless, so that they avoid accountability on who actually arrested you. Then once they capture you, they disappear with you. They do not take you to any police cell. They do not take you to any prison. They do not take you to any court or even a torture chamber as Moi used to do. So they will disappear with you, do whatever they do with you, and they're not even going to identify themselves. Because even in Moi era, I remember one time from the history books, Dr. Kamino was arrested in court. And when he was arrested, everybody knew that he was arrested by the police because they were always in uniform. Now we have people who arrest you. They are carrying guns. They have vehicles which you perceive to be police vehicles, but there is no evidence. But they also have no uniforms. They have no identification documents. So when they disappear with you, and whatever they do to you, there's no way you can later come back and account. So that is what is currently happening within our country. Yeah.
And maybe this should come later, but when we're talking about reforms, but now let me ask. This constitution came to seal these loopholes. How come they have not been sealed? How comes abductions have come back and we have people still missing to date, and we have this constitution that came about to seal these loopholes?
You see, the reason why this is not happening is because we have rogue individuals in power. That is the problem we are having. If at all we were going to follow our constitution to the letter, the way we are, with the way it is written and the way it was intended, we will not have any disappearance, because a police officer would purely discharge his duties according to his code of conduct and his code of service. So he will know that for him to actually be on duty, he's supposed to be in uniform. He's supposed to be having his badge with the number. He's supposed to be having his identification card, so that if at all the state suspects you of having done something wrong, the police officer should identify himself, tell you whatever you are suspected of having done, then arrest you legally, take you to a police station, do a booking, and finally present you to court. But now, because we are having sort of a state which is confused, where people are drunk with power and they want to preserve that power at the expense of our constitution and our laws, that is why all this is happening. They are trying to circumnavigate and act out of the law. That is the reason why when they come arresting these individuals, they do not come as the state. They come as rogues, so that they leave a loophole where somebody will say, like this morning I was following on the story of, I think it's called Azuz.
Zizo, yeah.
Yeah, Zizo. Somebody called Zizo.
Yeah.
He was abducted, and it was following these particular demonstrations which occurred alongside two others who are also still missing. But the state or some other individuals associated with the state are now bringing some kind of propaganda that this person was a criminal. Yes, he was having criminal record sometime in 2024, that is 2 years ago. But if at all he was a criminal and the state already knew and they even had him on the DCI page, the best that they would have done is not to have somebody else who is ununiformed arrest him. They would have summoned him because they already have his details. And after summoning him, or even after arresting him properly, they should arraign him in court and not say that this person, he was having criminal records, so now he has disappeared, it is because of crime. Even a criminal deserves justice. Whatever they do, they have to be presented to the court for them to be tried there. And we cannot say that because he was a criminal, it is okay for him actually to disappear. So these people, they normally come to arrest not as the state, as they should. Because the state is the one which is charged with the responsibility of ensuring your freedom and ensuring your right to dignity, ensuring your security. But because they want to breach that your right to security and freedom, they don't come in a formal manner the way they are supposed to do. They come as rogues, where somebody comes without any identification, so that at the end of the day, even if we are supposed to go to court and do an habeas corpus, they can tell you that it is not us who arrested and adduce any evidence. You will not be having a number plate. You will not be having the identification of the person who did the arrest or any other thing. So you cannot associate it with the state. But the manner in which it is carried out, we will all know that the only person who can wield such power is the state.
And now, Akili, from a constitutional and legal standpoint, could you tell us the duty that the state owes citizens in protecting their life and the liberty and their freedom of speech?
You see, from where I began, the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the current one, it was mainly agitated for because of the atrocities which were committed by the Moi government. In that period, you would find a minister making a speech in a funeral. But the moment he was done making that speech, he would be arrested there just because of whatever he had said. And then he would end up not even being taken to court. There's another interesting story about Kaminwa. Sorry, I like mentioning him, but again, he's the oldest lawyer in Kenya right now, so he has a very long history. So there's a time Dr. John Kaminwa was representing Paul Mwite in court because Paul Mwite had been charged with things to do with the multi-party protests. So when John Kaminwa was representing him, the Inspector General of Police issued warrants against John Kaminwa. So Kaminwa, who was an advocate representing Paul Mwite, was accused, was also arrested within the court simply because he was representing somebody. So all these brought issues within the country, and later on even the wife to John Kaminwa was arrested when she went to try to release the husband. She was also an advocate then later became a Court of Appeal judge. So there was all this fight because everybody wanted freedom. You could not even practice your profession. Lecturers were being arrested for teaching democratic rights to the students. Teachers were also being arrested for teaching certain poems in their primary and secondary schools. So nobody could even express their own opinion. You would express your opinion, and the moment you do it, your businesses will be closed. There are people who suffered from such kind of things. Your business will be closed, so you see that is already your right to property. Or you will be arrested, detained, and without being charged, sent to prison. So people were feeling the weight because it was even now disturbing business and even education in the country. And that is why they agitated for the new constitution. So when the constitution came, it now became the responsibility of the government to ensure that your rights are protected. And unlike the previous constitution, our current constitution now has a whole Bill of Rights. And it actually says that it is the responsibility of the government to ensure that all these rights are there. So the first thing is that the government is supposed to ensure your right to dignity. That is under Article 28. So if you are arrested, you are supposed to be treated in a dignified manner. We recently saw on Thursday, I think it was on the 25th, when a journalist was being carried in a very undignifying manner as he was being arrested. So that alone brings two wrongs or two breaches. He has a right to dignity as a person. But again, there's also the freedom of press. And freedom of press brings to every other person right to information. So every time the government acts, it is normally acting in a way that deters people from enjoying rights, when ideally from the constitution, it is supposed to be the one ensuring it. It is the reason why you are supposed to be having police officers patrolling all over, including in this building. They should be patrolling so that the place is always safe. So the moment they deny you the security, then there's no business which can go on. And that is why they begin by first denying you your right of expression. When they deny you your right of expression, technically, they're taking away your right to your personal opinion. Because you must be able as a person to have an opinion about everything going on around you, including how the government is being run. So they deny you a right to expression. That means you cannot say what you feel about the finance bill or any other controversial thing going on. And the moment you try to say something, like the gentlemen who are protesting and were now abducted, then instead of the state protecting you, they have left thugs to come and abduct you or arrest you. Instead of them, if at all they felt that whatever you've done is wrong, they should have arrested you using the formal police process and arraigned you in court. Now they have abdicated their duty to protect you, and that is the reason why a thug can come, pick you up without any identification, disappear with you, and then torture you. And yet, you have a right not to be tortured. So that is what the state has done. It has failed in its duties to protect the citizens, and I actually think that it has become complacent in breaching the same Bill of Rights, which it has a duty to protect. Yeah.
And touching on the finance bill, Wakili, please make me understand how this works, because we say this constitution brought about things like public participation and demands that before certain bills are passed, people must be informed and they must take part.
Yes.
But again, we see a situation where their concerns are not taken into account, and this thing goes ahead to pass as it is or fulfill the will of whoever made it in the first place. So do we have a gap? Does this constitution really serve us if the executive is going to make these things, bring it to the people as a procedure, but again just do what they want to do anyway?
When you talk about the issue of public participation, it talks about systematic failures which the country is facing. The constitution requires that whatever is happening, or whichever thing that the government decides to do, including enacting various legislations, passing even regulations, like even the issue that is currently being discussed about private vehicles being taken for inspection, there ought to be sufficient public participation so that we are able to air our opinions. Like yesterday, I saw the Director General of NTSA saying that the government only has 17 centers for that inspection and is trying to enlist another 70 private individuals to also do the same. So how did we arrive at the stage where a role which is supposed to be carried by the government is now going to be taken to the private entities? It simply means somebody sat somewhere, saw a business opportunity, and they want to do it. If at all this was taken to public participation, we would have been able to question. And the same Director General comes to say that he does not know the exact number of vehicles in the country. But he says with the 87 centers, once the 70 are enlisted, will be sufficient. So how does he know that the 87 will be enough? If there was public participation, he would have already learned that even the existing 17 have not been able to service the public service vehicles. So public participation has become very contentious over the period, including the Finance Bill 2024, because the government does not want to do it. They've come up with ways of just shoving things down people's throats. And the Constitution, after making the requirement of public participation, did not go beyond saying what exactly amounts to proper or sufficient public participation. Now, this thing has gone to court. We had the issue of housing levy. One of the reasons why the court initially denied it is because there was no sufficient public participation. Then there are also other various acts of parliament, including the Cyber Crimes Act. The main issue why they were rejected was insufficient public participation. Then parliament has been tasked with go and prepare legislation which now defines public participation and its parameters and sufficiencies. It has failed to do this since 2010 to date. Yet this is a very important element for the country to move forward and has resulted in the nullification of so many legislations. So Parliament has seriously failed the country by failing to enact something on public participation. Now, public participation has remained an issue of discretion of our judges, whereby today an act is brought and then somebody challenges it to court and say there was no public participation. Depending on what that particular judge will consider, he will say, from what I can see, there was enough public participation. Or from what I can see, there was not enough public participation. That is why in the case of the removal of Rigathi Gachagua, they say public participation was sufficient. But in other cases, it is not sufficient. And recently, when passing the current finance bill, which is now the act, we saw the CS for finance. He went to Jivanji Gardens, Bunge la Wananchi, and spoke with a group of around 100 individuals whose professions we do not know, their origins we do not know, or their roles in the society we do not know. But now that, according to them, is public participation. But you see, public participation of a bill which is going to affect the entire nation should be carried out in a particular manner. For instance, if the bill touches on something to do with maritime, I must show that I contacted individuals in that particular area. If the bill maybe touches on something to do with social media and this content creation thing, you must bring evidence that you actually contacted these people. They also gave their opinion. If it touches on the border, you have to show that you sat somewhere with the border guys. They gave you their opinions about whatever proposals they have, and they counter-proposed, and also how you took whatever proposal they made. Because public participation is not just saying, we've come here with a bill, tell us what you think, and then we say what we think, and you still go back with the same bill. There should be evidence that you came with 10 proposals. We shot down number 4, but we gave you another one, which you've also taken into consideration. So that is what public participation, because the intention of public participation is not just to show that the government interacted with the people, but it is to ensure that the opinion of the people is incorporated in how the government is run. So far what has failed us is Parliament, which has failed to enact a proper act. And why does it fail to do this? Because this thing works in their favor. Any person who is in leadership always wants to be the final authority, that whatever he comes up with or whatever suggestion he has should be final. They do not want another person, because some of them think they are so intelligent or they are so rich to go and sit down with Mama Mboga and listen to what the Mama Mboga is saying. Yeah, but that is not the intention. The Mama Mboga actually has also a duty to be involved. She has a right to be involved in the running, so that she is able to say that if you increase the price of fuel with 2 shillings, yet I'm selling my mboga, let's say in Langata, but I normally go for it in Marikiti, my fare is going to increase. So if it increases, then I will have to increase the price of the tomatoes. So that is the reason why we need public participation. But then our legislators do not want this, and even our leaders, because for them, they always think that whatever thing they come up with, must be respected. And that is why our financiers comes up with very crazy suggestions, and then he does not want anybody to critique them. Even in Parliament, you see, any member of Parliament who tried to critique the finance bill was being shut down and told that you are a propagandist. But no proper discussion was done with the common mwananchi.